Hello YouTube, welcome to another video in my moon sign series I have started on YouTube, and now it's been a while since I've made a video for this series, but all I can say is that sometimes shit happens in life and you get caught up in everything that's been going on and you really just don't have the time nor the motivation to do some of the side projects or hobbies that you have going on. So, I'm back here again with another video. This time we're going to be doing Moon in Cancer. Now, Moon in Cancer is probably, it's at its home here the Moon is at home in Cancer because Cancer is ruled by the Moon. And so a common thing that I kind of like to say about Cancer Moon is that their emotions kind of go with the tides of the Moon. So, no, this doesn't mean that you're gonna, they act like psycho bitches when there's a full moon outside. That's not what this means. But this does mean, though, is that Cancer moons are very, very sensitive to their feelings, and this takes a lot of precedence in how they deal with each coming day. So, this is why they get known for being moody, because suddenly they can be having a really, really great time, but then if something comes along that kind of really bothers them, they kind of just are suddenly in a really, really bad mood. And until they get over this whole thing that's bothering them in this current moment, they kind of just are in a bad mood, basically. And sometimes people can take this the wrong way by them just being defensive or snobby or whatnot. But in reality, it's just that sometimes Cancer moons, they go through daily struggles in each and every day of their life, and sometimes it's not entirely even your own fault. They just get this way because sometimes there's shit that goes on in their life that bothers them, and the only way to deal with it is kind of just to sort of just push through it, and just once they're over it, then they'll just be back to themselves. Just give them some time and space. Don't take their moodiness necessarily personally, 'cause it's not always directed at you. Just let them get through it and give them some time and space to process it and everything, and before you know it, they'll be back to their regular old selves in no time. I know two people in my family that have moon in Cancer. One of them is my sister. Her moon is in her 10th house, and then one of them is also my mom, and her moon is in her 4th house. And something I can say about Cancer moons is that they're very, very sensitive to their environment, very, very sensitive to the emotions of others, and they can sometimes have a hard time dealing with really negative emotions of other people. And it's because of the fact that they're so sensitive to other people's emotions. You have to understand that water is a very reactive element. Water changes with the tides. It's like Scorpio and Pisces moon, but all water moons that people have are most likely going to be very, very sensitive to their environment and what's going on around them, as that water picks up on everything that's going around them. And as we know what water is, it's a liquid. It takes up the shape of wherever it's placed. And I like to talk about when I'm talking about water rising signs, it kind of works the same way with moon signs, but it's more about your feelings. Water moon signs are very sensitive to the emotional currents of what's going on around them, and because of their watery nature, they can sort of reflect back what's going on in the emotional energy of a situation or room, because water is reflective and takes the shape of wherever it's placed. And so this is common with many water moons. But there's one distinct difference between Cancer moon that separates it from Scorpio and Pisces moon, and it's the fact that it's a cardinal sign. I've talked about how Scorpio moon can get very fixed and stubborn in their emotions. They can get very fixated in them and kind of just drown in them. And then I've also talked about how moon in Pisces can get somewhat lost in their feelings and have a difficult time trying to really put together exactly how they're feeling. But moon in Cancer is very, very direct about how they're feeling. Sometimes, now I know there's some people out there going to be like, what the fuck? Some of the Cancer moons I've known that are the most passive aggressive people out there. Well, what I mean by direct is that whenever Cancer moon feels something, they tend to be very, very forthright in expressing how they feel, especially even if they're not necessarily the best at explaining it. So what I'm saying is that if Cancer Moon is really bothered by something that they're doing, you're going to get a reaction out of them. There's not really a time that you don't get a reaction out of Cancer Moon unless the Cancer Moon person feels like that their feelings don't matter at all. They can get into this negative pattern where they just suppress their feelings completely and try to like not show them around you at all because they feel like that certain people just won't like understand how they feel, and so they can just kind of like shut their feelings down. I see this shit with my sister constantly. If she's like around people that she doesn't necessarily trust or doesn't necessarily feel comfortable around, she's not going to just like start talking about her feelings or be really expressive about her feelings. She kind of like retreats into her shell. It's a very typical Cancer trait to retreat into their shell because they're very shy and they need time to be able to adapt people around them, because they're not just gonna come out and like put their emotions on display for the entire world to see. Like, no, even if my sister's a 10th house Cancer Moon, she's not just gonna throw all of her feelings out there, especially if she's around people that she feels like kind of like make her feel like her feelings are invalidated or whatnot. And if this is not what's going on with the Cancer Moon, then they probably are more likely to be very direct in how they feel and very expressive because, like I said, Cancer is cardinal. And a lot of the times, out of the cardinal signs, a lot of people say that Cancer is the least direct of the cardinal signs because we have Aries, which is like very in your face, and Capricorn is like very, I'm just going to keep pushing through it. I'm going to go after what I want. And Libra, well, Libra is a special one because Libra is just like, they want to go after what you want to go after, settling in pretty much everything. Libra's another topic for another day, but Cancer Moon is very direct about how they feel. And at least they try to be, and if they're not, there's something going on in them that's like causing them to not be. It could be that maybe they grew up in a poor environment that necessarily made them feel like they couldn't express their emotions like other people did, so they kind of have this funky way of going about expressing their feelings, which might translate into passive aggression. Sometimes I feel like water signs can be kings of passive aggressiveness just because they can get so swallowed up in all the feelings that they have, they're not exactly best at processing them. But I feel like Cancer is probably like the least likely sign to be very necessarily like play mind games with you when it comes to like feelings. They're not that type of person. They're like more like just want to like get through them because Cancer's cardinal. Cancer isn't like Scorpio, where Scorpio will sit on their feelings for the longest fucking time in the universe. And so, but this doesn't mean that they don't remember things that you've done to them. Cancer moons are very good at remembering all of the bad things that you've done to them. Usually water moons are, but at the same time, it can also be biased at times just because of the fact that they tend to remember how it made them feel in a certain situation, because with water's about the emotions and the receptivity to like what's going on around them. With moon in Cancer, they can easily remember what happened to them, the significance events that happened to them, especially if they've been like emotionally traumatizing or like very like extreme and whatnot. So just because a Cancer moon is like being nice to you and being friends with you and everything doesn't mean that there's also not stuff going on behind their head about them kind of like thinking about what's like who they're really hanging out with and like what's really going on with said person and whatnot. It's not like Aries, where like an Aries moon, if they have a problem with you, an Aries moon is just gonna fucking tell you whether you fucking like it or not. Cancer moon is a lot more subtle than that. And a lot of it also has to do with how they feel. And a lot of times, Cancer moons are usually not the type of people that have a lot of like emotional outbursts. But if you do manage to upset a Cancer moon, the easiest way to upset them is to hurt somebody that they care about. Because, like I said, Cancer is a family-oriented sign, and the people that Cancer moons hold on to most are people that they feel like are very, very important in their lives. And like I said, these people are going to be more important to them than others. And if you kind of like hurt these people, that can really be what sets them off. They're very, very territorial. They're very like family oriented, kind of like the, I guess, mother bear of the family, the one that protects everybody, like the nest keeper. That's what Cancer represents. Cancer moons can be this way too. Now, this is like ignoring that there are other aspects or whatnot going on in their chart. For example, if like somebody, like a lot of the times, if somebody, for instance, my sister has her moon in the 10th house, but it's also conjunct Saturn. So this isn't going to be the very, very typical Cancer moon that's like emotional drama queen. Oh my God, I'm going to cry over everything. No, it's like because of Saturn's influence, there's like this sort of like, it just kind of like makes it so that her emotions are more like controlled and like locked down and not necessarily just like out there. She's got a lot more like control and reign over her feelings because of Saturn's influence. But like I said, each chart's different. Most prominent qualities about Cancer moon, like I said, are like they're very like their feelings kind of like control how their moods are throughout the day. They're not necessarily going to be very expressive about their feelings to just anyone. They really have to feel comfortable around you before they express their feelings. I like to think that sometimes, like, if you have like younger like children that are Cancer moons, I feel like when you have younger children, like when they're like between 7 and 12, around then, I feel like that typical Cancer moon, like, emotional drama queen that cries over everything, period, kind of like goes on between those ages with children. And I'm not only saying that from experience in dealing with my Cancer moon sister. I love her, but oh my God, sometimes she would fucking start crying over fucking cookies, even if it was completely unnecessary. So that's just a typical Cancer moon thing. I love my sister, but sometimes you know how you can get with your siblings. It just fucking drives you crazy sometimes. They know how to push your buttons. But anyway, aside from that, like I said, Cancer moon's very, very emotional people, very reactive to your environment. They can also be very connected to animals. Not necessarily all water moons are like this, but Cancer moon, I feel like, along with Pisces moon, is the most likely sign to be very, very connected with animals. And I see this because my sister is connected with animals. My sister kind of like loves all animals, no matter what kind of animals they are. Cancer moons definitely are the typical people. When they see animals, they kind of like, oh my God, it's so adorable, that kind of like attitude. And my mom, being a 4th house Cancer moon, was also the same way. She also was very connected to animals, and she was also very attached to the animals that she liked. And one thing I've noticed is that if you ask a Cancer moon about their relationships with pets, even if they may have had times with pets that may have like upset them or whatnot, you won't really hear them talk about them having a relationship with a certain pet that was completely negative. Only time I remember I only remember my mom saying one time when she was younger, she like grew up with a pet poodle that kind of bit her in the lip. That's pretty much it. And I don't know, that's the only like negative story that she really told me about like any sort of like encounters that she's had with animals. And this is coming from a Cancer moon. And so to wrap this whole video up, Cancer moons, I think, are very, very in touch with animals, and they love animals. They're very emotional. Their emotions kind of like define how they feel throughout the day. So if they're in a bad mood and they're kind of like being sort of bratty or moody towards you, don't take it personally. It probably isn't always it's not always your fault. It's not probably isn't even related to you. It's just that there's something that's been going on that's been bothering them and stressing them out, and they have can sometimes have trouble not taking it out on other people. It's just because they're just kind of in that mood. Kind of just give them some time and space to process all of those feelings that they have, and eventually it should bounce right back and everything should be okay. Make them feel like that they can be trusted. If you really want a Cancer Moon to like you, you cannot make them feel like their feelings are invalidated. And if you pretty much like tell a Cancer Moon that everything they're feeling is stupid, or they should just get over it, or if they need to stop whining and crying like a whiny bitch or something like that, they're probably not gonna ever fucking try to talk to you about your feelings again, because those are like surefire indicators that you don't care about anything that they have to feel, and so why bother? And so that's pretty much the end of it. Thank you to those who watched my video. If you liked it, like it, subscribe if you want to watch more astrology videos in the future. I made a playlist for moon sign videos on my channel, so if you want, you can go check those out. And that'll be the end of that, so I'll talk to you later.